There was a time I believed love would hold everything together, even the cracks you couldn't see. Our house stood proudly on the cliff edge of St Kilda, overlooking a restless ocean that changed shades like a mood ring. To strangers, it looked like a dream. Polished timber floors, high ceilings, massive glass walls that bathed the living room in golden afternoon light. But inside, silence echoed louder than any waves crashing below. Damon was always away, work, meetings, flights. He chased numbers the way others chased sunsets. He was brilliant, sharp, and terrifyingly distant. He'd kiss my cheek, say back in a few days, and vanish into boardrooms and airport lounges. His presence lingered in the house only through his cologne on pillowcases and unopened whiskey bottles. I had stopped waiting up for him. At 34, I still turned heads when I walked into a room. My modelling years had left me with posture, taste, and an instinct for attention. But I wasn't looking for it anymore, not in Melbourne, not in galleries, not even in the mirror. Until Liam walked through the door. He was younger, late 20s maybe, sent by the renovation firm to work on our rooftop extension. Tall, sun-touched skin, sleeves rolled up, measuring tape clipped to his jeans. There was a rawness to him that didn't belong in our sterile marble kitchen. His handshake was warm, eyes slightly amused, as if he could already see through the polished version of me I wore in front of strangers. "So you're the boss of the house?" he smirked on the first day. "Not quite," I smiled, "but I make the coffee." He nodded. Strong, black, no sugar. For the next few weeks, Liam came and went with timber samples, sketches, dusty boots, and that damn smile. He whistled while he worked. He joked with the painters. He said arvo and reckon and bloody mess with a charm that made the walls feel less cold. I started wearing perfume again, not for him, for myself, I told myself. But I noticed he noticed. We began talking, nothing scandalous, just longer conversations. About the tiles, about why the old oak beams made the place feel less sad, about my old PR job and his dreams of designing his own eco-homes up north. He listened, not like Damon, who processed facts like spreadsheets. Liam heard tones, pauses, trembles. One Thursday, while waiting for a delivery truck, we sat on the back steps sipping lukewarm tea. "I've always liked this view," I said. "It's wild," he replied. "You can't tame it." "You sound like a poet." "I'm just a bloke who draws roofs and forgets to eat lunch." He said it lightly, but my chest clenched. I realized I'd laughed more in 2 weeks than I had in 2 years. It scared me. When Damon got home that Friday night, I cooked steak and poured his favorite red. He ate quickly, complimented the salt, then opened his laptop mid-meal. I watched him under the warm dining lights. My husband, the man I once ached for. I reached for his hand. He didn't notice. That night, I lay awake. Outside, the waves beat the rocks like they were trying to remind me of something. Inside, a question echoed through my skull like a broken record. Was I still allowed to want more? And if I was, what did more even mean? I closed my eyes, but all I saw was a man with sawdust in his hair and laughter in his voice. I hadn't done anything wrong, not yet. But the house was shifting, and I could feel it in my bones. The next morning, Liam returned early, knocking twice before stepping in with a rolled blueprint under his arm and a crooked grin. "Morning, Ava," he said, casually, like we'd done this for years. His boots left faint dust trails on the floor I'd just cleaned, but I didn't mind. I offered him a coffee, strong, black, no sugar. He laid out his new sketches on the marble island bench, tracing over lines with fingers that looked like they could both build and break things. I stood beside him, close enough to smell the scent of wood shavings on his clothes. Something about it was grounding, earthy, real. "I've moved the stairwell here," he said, pointing, "so you get that morning sun hitting the studio space." He looked up. "Unless you prefer the afternoon light?" "I like mornings," I said, "when things feel possible." We locked eyes for a moment too long. He smiled, just slightly, then looked down again. The morning passed in suggestions and laughter. He wasn't afraid to challenge my choices. "You sure you want matte black?" he asked, raising an eyebrow. "Screams more fashion PR than home." "You're not wrong," I admitted. For the first time in a long time, I felt seen. Not admired, not envied, seen. Around midday, I offered lunch. He refused at first, then gave in when I told him there was homemade focaccia involved. We ate out back, under a wide umbrella, with paint swatches scattered like fallen leaves around us. "It's weird," he said between bites, "how a house can look perfect but feel hollow." I looked at him. "You noticed? I reckon it's the silences. They echo differently in empty homes, even ones full of stuff." My throat tightened. "It wasn't always like this. I didn't mean—" "No," I cut in. "You're right." And just like that, the boundary shifted again. Later that week, Damon flew to Brisbane. "Back Sunday," he muttered while checking his emails. I kissed his cheek. He didn't kiss back. Saturday was hot. Liam came over to finish some measurements. He wore a grey tee soaked around the collar from the sun. "You okay?" he asked as I poured lemonade into 2 glasses. I hesitated, then I said it. "Do you ever feel like you're waiting for your life to start again?" He didn't answer. He reached out instead and gently tucked a strand of hair behind my ear. "I think," he said slowly, "sometimes we forget we're allowed to feel more than just fine." My heart kicked hard against my ribs, but I didn't move. He didn't kiss me. He didn't need to. The moment lingered longer than it should have. When he left that afternoon, I stood alone at the door, hand still resting where his fingers had been. I knew something had shifted. It wasn't loud or scandalous. It was soft, careful, and deeply dangerous. The smell of sawdust started to feel like part of the house. It drifted through hallways and clung to curtains, not in a messy way, but in a lived-in, warm kind of way, like someone was finally breathing life back into the bones of our home. Liam became a regular presence. Always early, always cheerful, sometimes barefoot inside, careful not to scuff the floor. He'd bring music, mellow indie playlists on a small speaker he clipped to his belt. I teased him for it once. "What, no classic tradey rock?" I asked, smirking over my tea. He grinned. "Only on Fridays." We laughed, the kind of laugh that comes easy when you forget to be guarded. That Friday, the music was louder, the air lighter. He and the electrician argued over switch placements while I watched from the couch, pretending to scroll on my phone. "I can't believe I'm enjoying this process," I told him as he wiped sweat from his brow. "That's the goal," he said. "Make the chaos feel beautiful." It was working. Not just the renovation, me. I was waking up early again, cooking without a reason, painting my nails soft pinks I hadn't worn in years. And he noticed. Every time. One afternoon I stepped into the laundry room, only to find Liam there, crouched by the water heater. "Oh," I gasped, "didn't realize you were in here." He looked up slowly, eyes lingering a moment longer than necessary. "Didn't mean to startle you." I laughed, brushing hair behind my ear. "You didn't." But my pulse said otherwise. Later, as we stood in the hallway choosing paint colours, our hands touched on the same swatch. "Sorry," I said, pulling back. "Don't be," he replied, his voice quieter than usual. We both looked away. The day ended with him brushing dust from my shoulder before he left. He didn't have to, but he did. That night, I ran a bath, sinking beneath eucalyptus-scented bubbles, trying to soak away the tension curling behind my ribs. But even with my eyes closed, all I saw was him. His fingertips on my shoulder, his eyes when he said, "Don't be." I wrapped myself in a robe, walked barefoot into the kitchen, and stared at my phone. No messages from Damon, just his flight confirmation, no "miss you", no "how's the house?" I poured wine, sat by the window and watched the sea thrash under the moonlight. I wasn't looking for trouble, but somehow it had found its way in. Not with a bang, but with a smile, a hand, a shared joke over wall paint. I was falling, not into lust, into something quieter, deadlier. Attention, understanding. The kind of intimacy that doesn't need touch to feel dangerously close. Sunday came, and with it, Damon. He arrived with a suitcase in one hand, Bluetooth in his ear, and eyes on his phone. "Looks good," he said, glancing at the new kitchen lights Liam had installed. "Thanks, Liam worked late to get them in." "Right, the builder." I didn't correct him. He dropped his bag, opened his laptop on the dining table, and started typing mid-conversation. I stood there a moment expecting more, a hug, a compliment, a trace of curiosity. But there was nothing. That night he fell asleep before I could finish my sentence. His back turned to me, phone glowing in his hand. I lay awake, the sheets cold on my side, staring at the ceiling that now bore Liam's light fittings. The house had changed, but the space between us remained. Monday morning, Damon was gone again. Just a note on the fridge. "Don't forget the accountant on Thursday." By midday, Liam was back. He noticed the silence. "Rough morning?" he asked, soft. I nodded. We didn't talk much that day. We didn't need to. There was something charged in the quiet, a knowing. Late in the afternoon, while adjusting a high shelf, he slipped, just slightly. Enough that I instinctively rushed to steady him. My hands caught his side, warm, solid, and for a second he was in my arms. His face turned to mine. Neither of us moved. I should have stepped back. I didn't. He did. "Sorry," he muttered, clearing his throat. "No, it's all right," I whispered. He turned away, busying himself with tools that didn't need checking. I stood there, hands still tingling, skin still remembering. That evening, I walked along the beach alone. The sky was lavender, the sea restless, wind teasing my dress like fingers. I let it pull, let it open something I hadn't felt in years. Desire, not for chaos, not for attention, for aliveness. For someone who looked at me like I wasn't fading. The next day, Liam brought pastries. "You look like you needed sugar," he said, handing me a flaky cinnamon scroll wrapped in brown paper. "I needed something," I replied. He didn't push, just smiled, passed me the warm pastry, and sat opposite me while I ate. Our knees brushed under the small table. Neither of us moved them away. He left early that day, said he had a site meeting across town. But when I closed the door behind him, I leaned against it, heart hammering like I'd run up every stair in the house. I didn't understand how something so small, a look, a touch, a silence, could undo me like this. But it was happening, and worse, a part of me didn't want it to stop. It started with an excuse. Damon had cancelled our anniversary weekend, again. "Emergency meeting," he'd said over the phone, voice clipped, already somewhere else. I didn't fight it. I'd stopped fighting a long time ago. That Friday, as Liam finished tiling the guest bathroom, I casually mentioned the booking in Sorrento that now sat unused. "Beachfront," I said, half laughing, "would have been our 7th anniversary." He paused, looked up. "You still going?" I shrugged. Would feel weird going alone. He didn't say anything for a second, then, "It doesn't have to." I looked at him, blinking. He smiled, carefully. "We could call it a design retreat. You pick my brain over brunch. I sketch ideas over wine. Fair trade." My heart stuttered. I should have said no. I didn't. We drove down early Saturday. The sun followed us, skies wide and impossibly blue. The villa was quiet, with white curtains that danced in the breeze and a deck that faced the sea. It should have felt like someone else's weekend, but it didn't. It felt inevitable. That afternoon, we walked along the cliffs, shoes in hand, silence falling comfortably between our footsteps. Seagulls cried overhead. The wind tousled his hair. He looked freer here. Or maybe it was me seeing him clearly for the first time. We sat on a rock ledge and watched the sun lower itself into the sea. "I've never done anything like this," I said quietly. "Me neither," he replied, "but I think about it, more than I should." I turned to him. His eyes didn't flinch. He wasn't guessing. He knew. He leaned in slowly, like giving me time to stop it, to run, to turn back. I didn't. When our lips met, it wasn't fireworks or violins. It was breath, stolen, shaky, urgent. It was relief, and grief. We kissed like people who had been starving, not for sex, but for softness. Later, in the villa's dim light, we undressed carefully, almost reverently. He touched me like I was music, slow, attentive, listening between every note. He asked nothing, took nothing, just gave. And in that moment, I remembered what it felt like to be wanted. Not for how I looked, not for what I gave, but for who I was underneath all the layers. That night, wrapped in white sheets and a silence that felt like safety, I lay beside him, eyes open, staring at the ceiling fan spinning overhead. I wasn't thinking about Damon. I wasn't thinking about consequences. I was only thinking of the way Liam's hand rested lightly on my hip, grounding me, holding me in a place I hadn't known I'd missed. I should have felt guilt. I didn't, not yet. Sunday morning came with golden light and the sound of gulls. I woke to the warmth of Liam's chest against my back, his breath soft against my neck. For a moment, I let myself believe this was normal, that we were just another couple sleeping in after a late night. But the truth caught up fast. By the time we returned to Melbourne that afternoon, the air between us had changed, still tender, still electric, but heavier, like the weight of what we'd done clung to our skin like salt from the ocean. Damon was home when I arrived. He was in the study, on a conference call, fingers flying across his keyboard. He glanced up. "You're back early." "Yeah," I said, dropping my bag quietly. "Didn't feel like staying the whole weekend alone." He didn't ask anything else. That was the first lie. I went to shower, scrubbing my skin harder than necessary, not because I felt dirty, but because I didn't want the smell of Sorrento to linger. The sea, the sheets, his skin. When I looked at myself in the mirror, I didn't see a cheater. I saw a woman who had been sleepwalking through her life and had finally, painfully, woken up. The next day, Liam didn't come. No text, no update. By Tuesday, I finally messaged him. "Are you all right?" The reply came hours later. "Needed space, just a bit, I'm sorry." It gutted me more than I expected. When he did return Wednesday, the tension was sharp. We avoided eye contact, made small talk about the plasterwork, the weather. The warmth had gone. Or maybe we were both just scared. At lunch, I finally broke. "Was it a mistake?" He looked at me for a long time. "It wasn't nothing," he said, "but I don't want to be the guy who ruins your life." I didn't know what to say to that, because part of me already felt like it was too late. The thing about cheating, real cheating, is that it doesn't begin in bedsheets. It begins in longing, in all the things you stop saying and all the things someone else hears instead. Every touch, every pause, every silence had been part of the fall. But now I had to live in the aftermath. That night, I lay beside Damon again. He didn't ask what was wrong when I flinched at his touch. He kissed my shoulder, rolled over, and fell asleep. And I stared into the dark, wondering if he would ever know that I had already left him, long before Liam ever touched me. 2 weeks passed. Liam came and went like before, but something had shifted. We didn't touch, barely spoke unless it was about dimensions, budgets, tile finishes. He avoided my gaze like it burned, but his presence still filled the house louder than Damon's silence ever did. And Damon started noticing, not directly, but in the sideways glances, the lingering looks at Liam's boot prints on the tiles, the way his voice flattened whenever I mentioned progress on the Reno, the questions that sounded innocent but weren't. "So this Liam, he's here every day?" I nodded. "It's a big job, he's efficient." Damon didn't reply, just sipped his scotch, eyes still on the window. The mirror cracked one night when I came out of the bathroom in a robe, hair still wet. Damon looked up from his laptop, stared at me longer than usual. "You seem different lately," he said slowly. I froze. "Different how?" He shrugged it. "I don't know. Brighter, lighter, like you've found a secret." My heart stuttered. "I've just been painting more," I said quickly. "It helps." He accepted it, for now, but something in his eyes had changed. That week I found myself avoiding mirrors. I couldn't look without remembering the villa, Liam's fingers tracing the line of my back, the words we never said out loud. I missed him, not just his touch, though God I missed that too, but the way he made everything feel alive. Every room felt flat without him. Even when he was there, the weight of what we'd shared hung heavy, like a painting we refused to rehang. One evening, as he was leaving, I caught his arm in the hallway. He turned. I didn't speak. I just looked at him, hoping my eyes could say what my lips couldn't. His hand brushed mine, barely, but it was enough. "I can't keep doing this," he whispered. "Doing what?" "Being near you, and pretending none of it mattered." I stepped back, throat tight. "So what are you saying?" He didn't answer, just left. That night I stood in front of the mirror in our bedroom, staring at myself. Not at my face, at what was behind it. A woman divided, a heart torn between comfort and combustion. And in the glass I caught Damon's reflection in the doorway, watching me, not saying a word, just watching. The air in the house changed after that night. It wasn't anything Damon said, it was what he didn't. No more idle questions, no more passing interest in the renovation. Just an eerie kind of calm, the kind you get before a summer storm tears through the trees. Liam came in late Monday. His usual light step was heavier. His eyes didn't rise when I greeted him. I offered coffee, he declined. We worked side by side in silence, two ghosts floating through half-painted rooms and half-truths. By afternoon, I couldn't take it. "Liam," I said, voice soft, "please, talk to me." He looked up, finally. "Talk about what?" "About the thing we're both pretending didn't happen." He exhaled, long, deep. "I think about it every damn day," he said. "About you, about what we did, about what it means." "So do I." He took a step closer. "Then why are we acting like it never happened?" "Because if we don't," I whispered, "everything else might fall apart." His jaw clenched. "Maybe it should." But before I could respond, a voice behind us stopped everything. "Well," Damon said, "this is enlightening." We froze. I turned slowly, my stomach dropping as I saw him standing in the doorway, arms crossed, face unreadable. He looked at Liam, then at me. "So this is why you've been glowing." "Damon," I started. "No, don't," he snapped. "Please don't insult me with whatever lie you've got lined up." Liam stepped forward. "It wasn't planned, it just—" "Spare me," Damon cut in. "You can pick up your tools and get out, now." "Damon," I tried again, tears stinging. "I said now." Liam looked at me once, just once, then turned and left, the door clicking shut behind him with finality. The silence afterward was brutal. I stood in the middle of the hallway, shaking. Damon didn't yell, didn't break anything. That almost made it worse. "You know," he said finally, voice low, "for years I thought the worst thing that could happen was you leaving me. Turns out it was you staying, and disappearing anyway." Then he walked past me into the bedroom and closed the door. I stood there, surrounded by unfinished walls and open wounds, wondering if this was the moment everything ended or the moment it all began again. Broken, but honest. And in the quiet that followed, I finally understood. Some silences scream louder than any fight ever could. I didn't sleep that night. The house, stripped of its usual rhythm, felt like a stranger. Every creak, every wind-whipped rattle felt like a reminder, a question, a judgment. Damon didn't speak to me the next morning. He dressed in silence, packed a small bag, and left without a word. No slammed door, no parting shot, just absence. It should have felt like freedom, but it didn't. It felt like grief. Liam texted once, "I'm sorry, for all of it." I didn't reply. I couldn't yet tell what I felt. Heartbreak, guilt, or just the ache of a chapter closing with no clean ending. Days blurred. The renovation paused. The house sat quiet and unfinished, a perfect metaphor for what remained of my marriage. I found myself walking the beach more often, shoes in hand, seafoam licking at my ankles. I watched couples holding hands, kids chasing gulls, old men staring out to sea like they'd seen too much to speak. I started seeing a therapist. I needed someone who didn't flinch when I said the truth out loud, that I loved my husband once and maybe still did, that I desired another man and definitely still did, that I didn't know how to be a good person and a whole person at the same time. One session, I said it for the first time. I think I stayed too long in a life that stopped fitting me. The therapist nodded gently. And now? Now, I'm trying to figure out who I am when I'm not performing. The words stuck with me. By the third week, Damon returned. He looked tired, greyer at the temples. But something in him had softened, or broken. We sat across from each other at the kitchen bench. "I'm not here to argue," he said. "I just want honesty." So I gave it to him. I told him everything, not in graphic detail, but enough. Enough to stop pretending we were still the same people who said, "I do," in a vineyard 10 years ago. He didn't interrupt, just listened. When I finished, he asked one question. "Do you love him?" I hesitated. "I don't know," I said honestly, "but I know what I felt was real." He looked down, nodded once, then stood. "I'm moving out for now," he said. "I don't hate you, Ava, but I don't know how to be near you." And then he was gone again. Only this time, I wasn't numb. I was raw, but awake. And for the first time in years, I wasn't hiding from my own reflection. Autumn rolled in quietly. Leaves curled and fell without ceremony. The air turned sharp. The sea outside my window seemed calmer, as if it, too, had tired of the storm. The renovation was never finished. Liam never returned. Damon didn't call. And yet I wasn't lost. I filled the silence with small things. Repotting plants, repainting doors, reading books I used to pretend I didn't have time for. I started swimming again, early in the morning, the ocean cold enough to steal my breath, and with it, the shame. There were days I missed Liam so fiercely it made my ribs ache. Not just his touch, but the version of myself I saw in his eyes. The woman who laughed, flirted, asked questions, listened to her body and not her schedule. But love, or whatever it was, doesn't always come with permanence. Sometimes it just comes to wake you up. One evening, while sorting through old boxes in the garage, I found a photo from our wedding. Damon and I on a hilltop, young, glowing, drunk on the future. I sat on the floor and stared at it for a long time. Then I placed it gently back in the box, not out of anger, out of respect, because even endings deserve tenderness. Weeks later, Damon and I met at a cafe in the city. He'd found a flat. He looked healthier, lighter. "So," he said after 2 coffees, "what now?" "I think," I said carefully, "we stop pretending we're still holding something that's already drifted." He nodded. "You deserve more than my half attention, Ava. And you deserve more than my resentment." There were no tears, no dramatic farewell, just 2 people who finally told the truth, maybe for the first time in years. As we stood to leave, he hugged me, briefly, firmly. "Take care," he whispered. "You too." And then he was gone, for real this time. That night I returned to the house, my house now. I made dinner for one, lit a candle, played soft music. I wasn't waiting for a knock at the door, or a call, or a second chance. Because the choice I made wasn't about Damon or Liam. It was about me. Choosing to stop disappearing in rooms I'd built myself. Choosing to stop dimming my own light to make others comfortable. Choosing, finally, to come home to myself.